this is how you died.
Hmm.
That's it. That's the text on the screen. It is the very first thing you see. You boot up Project Zomboid, you've got your snacks, you're all ready to survive the apocalypse, maybe, build a cool fortress in the woods.
Carve some cabbages.
Exactly. And the game it just looks you right in the eye and says, here is the story of your inevitable failure.
It really does. It feels incredibly defeatist, doesn't it? Like the game is spoiling its own ending before you even start.
It does. Especially if you're coming from other survival games where the goal is to, win, to become this post-apocalyptic superhero.
Right. But if you look at the source material we're digging into it today, this very specific new player doctrine, that phrase isn't an insult. It's more like a warning label on a piece of heavy machinery.
A warning label.
It's the game resetting your expectations. The doctrine makes it really clear that this is not a power fantasy. This is a simulation of a breakdown.
A simulation of failure, really.
That's the perfect way to put it. The text frames death not as a mistake you made, but as a statistical inevitability. The only variable is time.
So the reason it starts there is to tell you what?
That you're not special.
You're not special. You are not the main character. You're just some person who is probably going to die.
Yeah.
And the source says the game doesn't assume you're stupid. It assumes you lack a survival doctrine.
The survival doctrine. Okay, that sounds very professional, almost military. It sounds a lot more organized than me, running around screaming because I dropped my frying pan.
Well, that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So for our deep dive today, we're going to break down this exact text. We're going to see if we can figure out how to turn that "this is how you died" message into, well, maybe.
This is how you lived a few weeks longer than you thought you would.
Which, in this game, is basically the only victory you're ever going to get.
Right. And the core argument, the absolute bedrock of this doctrine is, well, it's pretty blunt. It says that dying in this game is, and I'm quoting here, honestly a skill issue. Yes. The classic get good, but with a lot more nuance to it.
Skill issue just feels so dismissive, though. It's what, a 12-year-old yells at you in a competitive shooter when you miss a shot.
It is, but the distinction the doctrine makes here is fascinating. It argues it's not just a player skill issue. It's not about your reaction times or your mouse accuracy.
It's not about clicking on heads.
No. It's a character skill issue. The text says you should be making viable characters, not just one based on you. And then it adds this great little jab. Don't complain when you can't survive the apocalypse.
Okay, that is a massive reality check. I think we all do that at first. We try to role play as ourselves. Oh, I'm a podcaster with zero cardio who drinks too much coffee.
And has probably never held a hammer correctly.
Never. And then I die in 5 minutes and get mad at the game for being unrealistic.
Precisely. The whole premise here is that you cannot play as yourself. You have to engineer a survivor. You have to treat that character creation screen not as, like, a biography, but as a resource management puzzle.
So this doctrine is designed to take you from helpless victim to, accountant of the apocalypse.
An accountant of the apocalypse. I love that. It's about understanding the mathematical rules of engagement.
Okay, let's unpack that. Engineering a survivor. This is the first section of our deep dive, the architecture of a survivor. And the thing that jumped out at me immediately is this philosophy of free points.
The great trade-off.
Right. In Zomboid, to get good traits, like being strong or fit, you have to spend points. And to get those points, you have to take on negative traits.
It's a balancing act. You're selling your flaws to buy your strengths.
But the doctrine lists some negative traits that it says you should almost always take. And that seems so counterintuitive. Why would I want to make my character worse on purpose? It feels like sabotage.
It's all about understanding the mechanics behind the flaw. If a flaw gives you, say, 4 points to spend on something vital like strength, but the downside of that flaw is, well, if it's easily negated or manageable, it's not really a flaw, is it?
It's just free currency.
It's free money. And the doctrine highlights Smoker as the absolute prime example of this.
Okay, Smoker. I mean, on paper, that sounds like a nightmare. You're choosing to be addicted to nicotine in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. You'd be stressed out, jittery.
You would think so, but then you have to look at the loot tables. The source frames it completely differently. It just says, negate by smoking cigarettes. Cigarettes are everywhere.
Are they really that common, though?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be one of the first things to go.
You'd be surprised. They are everywhere. Gas stations, convenience stores, office desks, glove boxes in cars. And critically, they're on the zombies themselves.
Of course.
If you kill a dozen zombies, chances are at least one of them has a pack of smokes and a lighter on them.
So the supply chain for nicotine hasn't actually collapsed. The zombies are keeping it afloat.
Exactly. And the penalty for the trait isn't that you, have a heart attack. It's just a gradual rise in your stress moodle.
Yeah.
If you don't smoke, your character gets anxious.
And what does anxiety do?
It reduces your combat accuracy slightly, and it makes you unhappy. But the cure is just so abundantly available. You smoke 1 cigarette a day, the stress vanishes, and you just pocketed those extra points to spend on something that actually keeps you alive.
Like being able to run faster.
Right. If you don't pick smoker, the doctrine argues you're just leaving points on the table. You're paying an opportunity cost for a clean lifestyle that doesn't actually help you survive a zombie bite.
So pick up a smoking habit because the apocalypse is stressful anyway.
Got it.
Okay. What about prone to illness? That sounds genuinely dangerous. I don't want to die of the flu.
Again, it comes down to simple behavior modification. The doctrine says this one is easily negated by just common sense. Don't get cold, stay dry, don't hang outside soaked for no reason.
So just don't stand in the rain.
Basically, in a lot of games, weather is just a visual effect. In Zomboid, being wet makes you cold, and being cold for too long makes you sick.
Yeah.
If you have prone to illness, it just happens a bit faster. So the fix is
Go inside.
go inside. If it's raining, don't stand in the garden staring at the clouds. If you just act like a rational human being who prefers to be dry, the trait is completely meaningless. It's free points for having the good sense to come in out of the rain.
I love the weak stomach one too. The text says, negated by, don't eat sketchy food.
And then it adds, don't drink unsafe water if you can avoid it.
I mean, that feels like general life advice, not even zombie-specific advice.
It really is. But you'd be amazed how many players think, oh, I can eat this slightly rotten apple. I'm desperate. It'll just make me a little queasy. The doctrine says, no, that is a bad gamble. Don't take it.
So you take the trade, you get the points, and then you just adopt a strict policy of, what, food safety.
Exactly. You never eat rotten food. You never drink from a river without boiling it first. It forces you to play smarter, which keeps you alive longer, and it gives you the points to buy better stats to do it with.
Okay, there's one negative trait here that actually busted a myth for me. Short-sighted. I always assumed this meant my screen would be blurry, or I wouldn't see zombies until they were, biting my nose.
A very common misconception, and a death sentence if it were true.
For sure.
But the source clarifies this explicitly. It says, quote, it basically just makes distance slightly blurrier. It does not make zombies disappear. The fog of war doesn't actually close in on you.
And the fix is just ridiculously simple,
Yeah, it's
right?
the glasses.
Just any glasses.
Any glasses. Reading glasses from a nightstand, sunglasses off a zombie you just killed, you put them on, and the trait is 100% neutralized. It exists on paper, but it's erased by a single item that is scattered all over the map.
Okay, so we're loading up. We are a short-sighted, smoking hypochondriac with a weak stomach. That gives us a ton of points. Now, we have to talk about the weight debate.
Yes. Underweight versus overweight.
This is one of the most specific and frankly weirdest instructions in the doctrine. Always pick underweight instead of overweight.
It's pure biological math, at least as far as the game is concerned. The doctrine breaks it down to the speed of weight change. It is significantly faster to gain weight in Project Zomboid than it is to lose it.
Which is the exact opposite of my real life, but okay.
Isn't it just? In the game, if you start overweight, you get a fitness penalty. You have less endurance right out of the gate. To fix it, you have to starve yourself a little, which makes you weak, and you have to exercise, which makes you tired and hungry.
You're burning calories you desperately need just to survive.
Exactly. But if you start underweight, all you have to do is eat.
And not just eat anything. The source provides a shopping list that, well, it sounds like a cardiologist's nightmare.
It really does. The doctrine specifically recommends high-fat foods. We're talking butter, lard, vegetable oil, peanut butter, ice cream.
I'm just imagining my survivor sitting in a dark corner, listening to zombies banging on the door, unwrapping a stick of butter and eating it like it's a banana.
It's a grotesque image, isn't it? But mechanically, it works. A single stick of butter in Zomboid has a massive calorie count. You can fix the underweight condition in a couple of in-game days if you just commit to the lard diet.
The text does note that this diet might make your character sad.
I mean, eating straight lard probably isn't a culinary delight. I'd be sad too.
But the advice is just brutally simple. If sadness strikes, read a book. Deal with it or suffer.
Deal with it or suffer. That really seems to be the motto of this whole doctrine, doesn't it? The game doesn't care about your cholesterol. It just cares if you have the energy to swing a baseball bat.
Okay, so we've done it. We've scrounged up all these points from being an underweight smoker. Where are we spending them? What are the God-tier perks that make all this self-sabotage worthwhile?
The source identifies 3 key areas here. First is panic management, second is physical stats, and third is a very specific utility. First up is veteran.
That's an occupation, not a trade, right?
Correct. It's expensive point-wise, but it gives you a trait called desensitized. It makes you, and I quote, basically immune to panic.
But why is panic the big enemy? I mean, I would be panicked if I saw a walking corpse. That feels like a very natural survival instinct.
It's natural, yes, but in the game mechanics, panic is a debuff, a severe one. Panic crushes your accuracy with guns. It reduces your melee damage. It tanks your critical hit chance. When your character sees a zombie and that panic moodle pops up, you become objectively worse at fighting.
So you're more likely to miss your shot or your swing.
Exactly. The doctrine states very plainly, panic gets people killed. So paying for veteran just removes that variable entirely. You remain calm, and therefore you remain lethal.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there's strong and fit. These seem pretty basic, but the doctrine emphasizes them heavily.
Because they represent the physical realities of the game. Strong affects your carry weight, which is huge because you're a scavenger, and it boosts your melee damage. But fit is even more critical. It governs your endurance, how fast you get tired, how fast you recover.
And the source has a pretty dire warning about that.
It puts it bluntly, if you gas out, you die in 30 seconds.
That is terrifying.
It is. You can have the best shotgun, the best armor, the best plan. But if your character is exhausted from running 50 feet, you can't swing a weapon effectively. You swing in slow motion. You can't climb a tall fence to escape. You are a sitting duck.
So fitness isn't a luxury. It's your fuel tank.
It's your fuel tank, and if that tank hits empty, you stop moving and you die.
And the last big one mentioned is burglar. This one feels like a very specific utility pick.
It is, and it connects directly to a larger strategy we'll get into later about cars. The burglar occupation allows you to hotwire cars immediately, from day one.
And without it.
Without it, it's a whole process. You need to find a screwdriver, you need to find a specific magazine to learn the skill, you have to grind your electrical skill up to level 1 and your mechanic skill to level 2. It's a whole thing. It takes time.
So taking burglar just lets you bypass all that early game progression.
You bypass it completely. You can have a working car in the first 5 minutes of the game if you get lucky. The text says it lets you get one off rip.
Okay, so our survivor is built. We are a chain-smoking, butter-eating, nearsighted burglar who can bench press a truck. Now we drop into the world. And this moves us to Section 2, Asset Management. And the first thing the doctrine talks about is clothes.
Yes. And this is another one of those big mindset shifts. In most games, clothes are either for defense stats or for, drip fashion.
Right. Looking cool.
In Project Zomboid, the doctrine argues that clothes are, quote, literally your medical supplies.
Because you can just rip them up for bandages.
Exactly. The fabric mechanic is key. If you get scratched or, God forbid, bitten, you need bandages immediately. If you bleed out, you die. It's that simple. If you don't have a dedicated medical kit, that leather jacket or denim shirt you're wearing isn't just armor, it's a potential sterile rag.
So the advice is just wear everything you can.
The character gen tip is to wear as much as possible at the start. Put on the tank top, then the t-shirt, then the button-down shirt, then the sweater, then the jacket.
You'd be boiling.
You'll probably be too hot, yes. But it's about inventory efficiency. You are walking around wearing a pharmacy of clean rags. If you get hurt, you rip the shirt off your back and stop the bleeding instantly.
It's like wearing a first aid kit. A very, very sweaty first aid kit.
A very sweaty first aid kit that might just save your life.
Okay, now the text has a specific note here for multiplayer. It talks about avoiding traits like high thirst and hearty appetite, which is interesting because in single player, those are often seen as more free points.
They are, because in single player, water and food are pretty easy to find.
So why the change for multiplayer?
Scarcity. It all comes down to the economy of the server. In single player, every single fridge in the town is full and it's all for you. You're the only consumer. In multiplayer,
10 other people might have looted those fridges before you even got there.
exactly. The water might have been shut off on the server weeks ago in game time. The cost of living, as you said earlier, is just so much higher.
So the rule is what? It's better to need less?
The doctrine's rule is better to need less than to have to find more. If you have high thirst, you might need 2 bottles of water a day instead of 1. If water is scarce, you suddenly become tethered to a river or a rain barrel. You lose your freedom of movement. Reducing your caloric and hydration needs makes you more sustainable in a world that's already been picked clean.
Speaking of a stripped-down world, we have to talk about the doctrine of the automobile. I thought this part of the source was really poignant, actually. It gets almost philosophical about cars.
It does. It hammers home the point that cars are a finite resource. And the line it uses is chilling. There are no new spawns.
It really is. In a single-player game, if you wreck your car, you can always just walk to the next town over and find more. But on a multiplayer server,
On a server, the map is persistent. Once a car is destroyed, it is gone forever. The source says if you break it, it's done until someone fixes it, and then it adds this parenthetical note that's just so bleak.
nobody is going to fix it.
Nobody is going to fix it. That's the tragedy of the commons in the apocalypse.
So the rule is to treat every car like it's a museum piece.
Exactly. Treat them like relics. Don't smash them up doing donuts in a parking lot for fun. Don't use them as a battering ram against a horde unless it's life or death. The doctrine warns that reckless driving isn't just fun, it's permanently deleting a critical resource from the server. It totally changes how you look at a beat-up 1993 sedan.
It's not a disposable ride anymore. It's an artifact from the old world that cannot be replaced.
And everyone has to share it, eventually.
Okay, so treat the hatchback like it's the Mona Lisa.
Got it.
Let's move to the moment you actually hit start, Section 3, the first 60 seconds. The source describes a binary spawn scenario. You either get a normal spawn or a horde spawn.
And this is so critical. Your reaction in the first 10 seconds determines if you survive the next 10 minutes.
Let's start with the nightmare scenario then. Scenario A, the horde spawn. You
Yeah.
load in, the screen fades up from black, and you are already surrounded. You're in a trailer or a small house, and it's full of zombies.
The mandate here is one word, and the source uses all caps, R-U-N.
Just run.
R-U-N. That's it. That's the whole guide.
But I want to check the kitchen for a knife. I want to grab a bag from the bedroom.
No, you have to suppress that loot goblin instinct. The doctrine is explicit. Don't loot, don't check the house, don't hesitate. The logic is that you are already in a failed state. The simulation of failure has kicked in early.
So the only way to correct it is to create distance.
Immediately, if you stop to open a drawer, the horde closes the gap by 3 feet, and that's 3 feet you don't have.
It also gives some very specific advice on combat here if you can't just run. It says if you're boxed in, you have to push through.
Right, but it's nuanced. It says to pick the thinnest edge of the horde. Don't run into the center of the mass. Find the weak point in their circle, maybe where there's just one straggler, and punch a hole by shoving them, and then just keep moving. Don't stop to fight.
And it also advises against the sunk cost fallacy. What does it mean by that?
It means if you get wounded in this initial scramble, if you get bitten or deeply scratched in the first 30 seconds, just respawn.
Seriously, just give up.
It's not giving up, it's efficiency. Think about it. You're 30 seconds into this character's life. You have no skills, no loot, no base. You have nothing. Don't waste half an hour of your real-life time trying to bandage a bite wound and fight off a zombie infection when you have literally nothing to lose but just starting over. It's ruthless, but it's correct.
Ruthless efficiency. Okay. Now, what about the much better scenario? Scenario B, the normal spawn. You wake up in a house and it's quiet. What's the very first button you press?
Crouch, the C key.
Not run, not E, to open a container.
Crouch. The text emphasizes this so heavily. The first thing you do when spawning is crouch. You lower your profile immediately.
And why is that the absolute top priority?
Because information is your single most valuable resource at that moment. You need to engage your senses. You need to listen. Are there groans? Banging. You need to check the windows. If you just start running around the house, your footsteps will attract any zombies that are outside.
Crouching buys you time to assess the situation.
It pivots you from being a potential victim to being a hunter. You're gathering intel.
And there's a specific tip in the source about holding left quarter.
Yes, activating fisticuffs mode. Holding left cuddle puts your character into a combat stance. Even if you don't have a weapon, you're ready to shove. It prevents you from getting caught flat-footed if a zombie is hiding in the bathroom or behind a door. You open that door ready to fight, not ready to say hello.
Okay, so we've crouched, we've listened, the coast seems clear. We're now moving into Section 4, Domestic Survival, the first house protocol. We need to loot this place, but we need to do it smartly. The doctrine outlines a tactical sweep. Where do we go first?
Step 1 is the kitchen. Always the kitchen.
Because we're hungry. We need to find that butter.
Because we're defenseless. The kitchen is where the weapons are. Rolling pins, frying pans, meat cleavers, kitchen knives. Even a saucepan is better than your bare fists. If you check the bedroom first, you might find a pair of socks.
Socks will not save me from the zombie that's in the hallway.
But a frying pan gives you a fighting chance.
Fair point. Okay, kitchen first for weapons. Then where?
Step 2 is the bedroom. You're not looking for clothes yet, you're looking for the closet. This is where you find bags.
Right, bag priority.
Exactly. You can't carry enough in your hands and pockets. You need a garbage bag, a grocery bag, a duffel bag, anything to expand your inventory capacity. The doctrine is crystal clear on the order. Weapons first, then carry capacity. Everything else is a luxury.
And then comes the hydration discussion.
Okay.
This is the part that always grosses people out, but it's absolutely vital. We need water.
Ideally, you find a bottle and you fill it at the sink. Simple enough. But the source highlights the emergency source. If the water has been shut off or the sinks in the house are inexplicably dry, you go to the toilet.
The text actually says yes from the back of the toilet. We hope.
And it immediately follows up with, and no, you won't get sick from it either way, lol.
That lol is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
It is. It's acknowledging the grim reality of the apocalypse. But in Project Zomboid, mechanically, water is water. As long as it isn't labeled tainted, it's safe. Whether it comes from a pristine tap or the back of a toilet tank, it keeps you alive. The game doesn't model the social shame of drinking toilet water.
I think I'd rather die of thirst, but I guess that's why I'm not a survivor yet. Okay, so we've got a rolling pin, a garbage bag for a backpack, and a belly full of toilet water. Now, the instinct for a new player is to run right out the front door and see the world. Go explore the neighborhood.
And that is the exact opposite of what the doctrine says to do. It calls this the new player strategy. Stay put.
Stay put.
Stay put. The advice is to clear the house you're in, and then immediately close all the curtains, break line of sight. If there are no curtains, take sheets off the beds and cover the windows. And then just wait.
Wait for what exactly?
Wait for stability. Wait for daylight. The text explicitly says never go out at night. Night in Zomboid is terrifyingly dark. You can't see 5 feet in front of you. The zombies can hear you, but you can't see them. The doctrine suggests barricading yourself in an upstairs bedroom if you can. It's about securing a foothold.
So it's about acknowledging that the world outside is hostile and you are not ready for it yet.
You're not ready to dominate it. You need to establish a safe zone first.
This brings us to Section 5, which covers what you're supposed to do while you're sitting in that dark room waiting for the sun to come up.
Yeah.
Mental health and skill acquisition. The game has a lot of books you can find, but the doctrine makes a huge distinction between consumables and skill books.
This is a really important efficiency trap to avoid. Consumables are things like comic books, magazines, crossword puzzles. Their only purpose is to reduce boredom and sadness. Remember that sadness from eating the stick of butter?
Right. Comic books cure butter sadness.
Comic books cure butter sadness. They get used up when you read them. Skill books like Carpentry Volume 1 or Mechanics for Beginners are completely different. They're for training. They give you an XP multiplier for a specific skill. They don't disappear, but they take a long, long time to read.
And the efficiency trap you mentioned is?
The trap is using a skill book to cure your boredom. You're bored, so you crack open Carpentry for Beginners. The expert warns, don't burn time reading a skill book just to feel better. It's a waste of the book's potential. But there's an even grimmer piece of advice here for new players. The text says, quote, if you are a new player, don't bother with skill books yet.
Why not? Learning carpentry sounds incredibly useful. I want to build that cool fortress we talked about.
Because, to quote the source again, your death odds are plus 99% FMAO.
Wow. That is just harsh.
It's brutal honesty. Reading a carpentry book takes hours and hours of in-game time. If you are statistically likely to die in the next 24 hours because you're a novice, spending 8 of those hours reading a textbook is a catastrophic waste of your limited lifespan.
So you should be focusing on immediate survival.
Looting, securing your shelter, maybe finding a better weapon than a saucepan. Don't invest in your long-term education if you aren't going to survive the day.
That makes a grim kind of sense. Survive today, learn carpentry tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow. Okay, eventually we do have to leave the house. Maybe the food ran out. Maybe a zombie finally broke a window. We are now in Section 6, Movement and the World Outside. The doctrine uses this terrifying analogy for zombie AI. He calls them GPS missiles.
This is such a great way to help players visualize how the threat escalates. A wandering zombie, one that's just shuffling around, banging on a wall, staring at the sky. It's passive. It doesn't know you're there. It's just an object in the environment.
But when does it become a missile? What's the trigger?
Yeah. The moment you sprint or make a loud noise, that sound is the trigger. The zombie instantly locks onto the source of that sound, which is you. It transitions from a passive object into a GPS missile that is tracking your exact location. And it doesn't just affect that one zombie, it attracts everything in the radius.
So the key to survival is preventing that transition from happening in the first place.
Exactly. And that leads directly to the walking doctrine. This is a simple but game-changing realization for new players. You can outwalk the zombies.
You don't need to run from them.
Not at all. Unless you're playing with custom sprinter zombies, the default shambling speed is slower than your default walk speed. The source says never sprint unless absolutely necessary.
Because sprinting generates noise.
It generates noise, which attracts more zombies, and it burns your endurance, which is what gets you killed. Sprinting creates chaos. Walking keeps you in control. You can literally walk circles around a small group of them without ever getting tired.
It feels so counterintuitive to just calmly walk away from a monster, but I get the logic. The doctrine also advises on where you should be walking. Avoid main roads, big buildings, and town centers.
Because those are population centers. Where did the most people live before the apocalypse? The town center. So where are the most zombies now? The town center.
So you stick to the periphery.
Move through backyards. Stick to the woods if you can. Use fences and buildings to break their line of sight, to break their tracking. Avoid the high-density zones until you are much, much better equipped to handle them.
Finally, the doctrine gets to this exfiltration versus survival concept. It splits us into two options. Option A is for people who already know the map.
Right. If you're an experienced player and you know the map, which is huge and static, you can have a pre-planned destination, a rally point, or a safe house you like to use. You have a goal.
But for new players, option B, the advice is very stark. Don't freestyle.
You will die tired and lost.
That's a sad epitaph to have.
It's the truth, though. If you don't know where you're going, running is just accelerating your death. You're burning precious calories just to go nowhere. The ultimate goal, according to the source, is to realize there is no winning. The only goal is to survive longer.
You have to create your own objectives.
Tiny micro goals. I need to find some canned food. I need to board up this window. I need to find a better bag. If you don't set those small, achievable goals, you'll just wander aimlessly until you make one fatal mistake.
So let's recap this whole new player doctrine. We have gone from creating a chain-smoking, butter-eating, underweight burglar to spawning in and immediately crouching in a corner.
It's a journey.
We've learned to sweep the kitchen for rolling pins, drink from the toilet without shame, and then hide in a closet reading comic books while completely ignoring the carpentry textbooks.
And when we finally go outside, we walk, calmly, away from the town center.
It's a journey from panic to procedure. That's really what it is. The doctrine takes the absolute chaos of the apocalypse, and it imposes this rigid, almost clinical set of rules onto it.
It transforms the experience from a horror game where you are the victim to a management game where you are the administrator of your own survival.
And I think the most important philosophical takeaway from all of this is what the source calls the no main character rule.
Yes. The game does not care about you. It doesn't treat you like a hero. It treats you like a resource-consuming entity that is, in all likelihood, going to die.
And the sooner you accept that you're not the protagonist of a movie who is destined to save the world,
the sooner you start making the rational, cautious, and frankly boring decisions that actually keep you alive.
it's humbling, but it's also kind of liberating in a weird way. If you're not the main character, you don't have to do heroic things. You just have to eat your butter and stay quiet.
Precisely.
Before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought that really struck me from this source material. We talked about the cars earlier, how they're a finite resource, how once they're destroyed, they are gone forever.
Because nobody is going to fix it.
Right. And I think that's a really provocative thought to end on. We're playing a simulation of societal collapse. And usually we think the zombies are the problem. But this doctrine suggests that the real endgame, the real permanence of the collapse, comes from the inability to maintain what we had. The cars break down, and because everyone is operating on this every man for himself survival doctrine, nobody has the time, the skills, or the safety to rebuild.
The cars disappear not because of the zombies, but because cooperation has died alongside the population.
That is a fascinating and deeply depressing layer. The doctrine helps the individual survive, but maybe it confirms why the society failed in the first place. We're all just hoarding butter in our separate rooms while the machinery of the world slowly rusts away outside.
A society of lone survivors isn't really a society at all.
On that cheery note, thank you for listening to this deep dive into the Project Zomboid new player doctrine. Good luck out there, survivors, and remember, crouch, don't run.
And drink the toilet water if you have to.
We'll see you next time.